Okay, let's get started as people I know join. Let's give a couple of minutes to people joining while we get started. Happy Tuesday. We are so glad that you're all here. I'm Priya Balachandran, the event co-chair on the executive committee of the Association of CNPs. I'm excited to host this webinar. Uh, so please share where you are from and what you do professionally as people chime in. We invite you to keep the conversation going in the chat. Our next certified nonprofit professional cohort begins. If you're ready to take that next step, you will find more info in the. So go ahead and see if that's one of the things you're interested in. And today's session is brought to you by the Association of CNPs, the professional organization of certified nonprofit professionals. One way the association supports its membership is by hosting such sessions on topics that are on the minds of nonprofit professionals and our CNP learners. These events are always free. So if you would like to support the Alliance to continue these free webinars, check the chat. We have dropped a link for ways to donate. Thank you for your support. And today our speaker is Kristy Ryan from Move for Hunger, dedicated to social impact, food justice, and empowering women in leadership. Kristy is a dynamic nonprofit C-suite executive who leads efforts to reduce food waste and fight hunger across. So with that, without further delay, I will dive in. I will let her take on the screen. Kristy,
Thanks so very
it's
much
all
for the
yours.
intro. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to dive into this topic. It's one of my favorite topics and something that I think we often underestimate or undervalue. So we're going to talk a little bit about your personal branding and what you're part of your reflection, your storytelling, and then we're going to do some hands-on practice. But before we dive in, we're going to do a quick warm-up. If you could choose just one word that you'd love for people to use when they describe you, what would it be? Think about it. What's that one word you want people to describe you as? For example, it might be that you're strategic or authentic. Take a few seconds and drop those into the Slack for me. I'm going to start calling a couple of them out. We've got dependable, people leadership, kind, creative, dependable, it's a big one, knowledgeable, fair, humble, empathetic. They're going so fast, I can't keep up with all of them. Hold on to that word, because that word is a word that helps describe you. It's part of your personal brand. And today we're going to build upon that word. So hold that, write it down on a sheet of paper, drop it on a sticky note, whatever you need to do, but make sure you keep in mind that word as we go through the day. Give you a deep dive of what we're going to go over. It's just a quick snapshot of some of the things that we're going to talk about. And during our time today, if you have questions, please use the Q&A or the chat. We're going to try to catch them all. We will be capturing them. If I can't respond to every single question, you have my contact information at the end of this. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. So as Priya mentioned when she introduced me, I am Kristy Ryan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Move for Hunger, National Nonprofit in Food Insecurity. I also am a SHRM Senior Certified Professional. I am an advanced CNP professional, as well as several other credentials. And one of the things that I am passionate about is developing your personal brand and how you tell your own individual story, and then how you use that to leverage for your organizations. You might be wondering, does anybody ever read a bio? The answer is yes. I personally read them all. A well-crafted bio shows who you are beyond your job title. It makes you seem reliable, it builds trust, and helps people feel like they know you. Think about the time before you hire, you collaborate, or invite somebody to speak, you read their bio. It's often that first impression, that first moment. Raise your hand if you have ever Googled, raise your hands physically on the cameras, if you've ever Googled somebody before working with them. If you've ever Googled somebody before you pitched them, or talked to a sponsor or a donor, right? If you've ever hired them, interviewed them, joined a speaking session, watched a seminar, right? We do this as a natural bit because we want to know who are we talking to and who are we relating with. And that's where your bio actually has the power to shape what you're going to be using it for and how the story and what you're putting out into the audience. If you've ever Googled yourself, which I have, what comes up instantaneously matters, right? I want to know what people are seeing when they first see my name. So think about what you want to represent and how you want to present yourself in 30 seconds, because that's quickly how much attention you're going to grab from somebody. If you don't catch them, they're out the door. So that first sentence, that first word really does matter. So again, we're going to talk a little bit deeper about this, but I want to start with defining what personal brand is. It's often misconstrued, and there's often like, oh, I don't really know what this means. Your personal brand, when you think about it, you have to think about what comes to mind. Some might think about their LinkedIn profiles, your logo, your headshot, that image, that visual representation of you. Those are just pieces of it. Your personal brand is so much bigger. We define our personal brand as its intentional way you present your values, your expertise, your personality to the world. It's your reputation. It's what your strategy, and so there has to be strategy behind that. When you think three big questions: who am I? What do I stand for? And how do I want to be remembered? That's what your personal brand has the power to do for you. Your personal brand is unique. It's a combination of your skills, your values, your voice, your presence. It's how you show up. And it's what people remember. It's not just your resume. It's not a laundry list of all the things that you've done. It's your reputation. It's made with intention. And I want everybody joining today to think about that. It shows how you lead meetings. It shows what you post online, and it's how you introduce yourself. So think about someone that you admire professionally. Maybe it's a leader in your field or even a peer. What do people say about them when they're not in the room? That's their brand at work. So think of that person. What do people say when they're not in the room? Think about even your COOs or your CEOs or another leader that you know. What's the first thought that comes to mind when they're not in the room? That's their brand. That's their representation. But your bio is different, right? So bio is a story version of your resume. Instead of listing your titles and the dates, it weaves who you are, what you do, and why it matters. It helps people connect with you as a person, right? It can be used across platforms. You're going to have different links, different versions. It may be a sentence, your headline on your LinkedIn profile. It may be a paragraph that's going in your speaker bios. It may be a full press article, full page. I do have one of those as well. We're going to start by understanding what makes you you. So your SWOT analysis of yourself. This is where you're going to clearly reflect on your values, your strengths, your voice, and your visuals. When these align, people experience authenticity and trustworthiness. So grab your pen, write down 3 words or short phrases you want others to associate with you. This could be your values like integrity, strengths, your creative problem solving, or personality traits like you're approachable, friendly, welcoming. Think about this because these are going to be the building blocks that we're going to use in a minute. Clearly understand what your personal values, skills, and passions, because that's what's really going to drive what your bio will look like. While we think about that, the next thing is, what's your weakness? Reflect on the thing that you want to grow the most in, because authentically, if we don't identify our weaknesses, we can't possibly present ourselves in a way that is willing to learn and show up. I'll tell you what my weakness is. I hate quiet spaces. Cannot. No sound, like, makes me nervous, makes me itch. So I have to fill the void. That's my weakness. Don't like to talk in front of people. Mari, so many people have that same. All right, now that you have your 3 words, I have somebody who put theirs in: trustworthy, friendly, and real. Anybody else willing to share? And is anybody willing to share their weakness as well, like Mari did? Mari, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. You can drop them in the chat. I'll read them. It's easier on our NLA crew, in fact. So as we think of our skills and our passions and our expertise, and we think about our weaknesses, weaknesses are actually opportunities for you to grow and develop. So when you think of I statements, you're thinking, I want to, I will, I hope to, I mean to, right? That's how you're going to take those weaknesses and turn them into power words, by the way. Never believe a weakness is a weakness, and I always like to add this in here. Conflict resolution, saying the hard things, letting others down, those are great opportunities to address things and move forward. So let's talk a little bit deeper about what your bio is before we get to this whole use case for your bio. It should show your strengths. What are you known for? Weaknesses, what do you avoid? Those opportunities, where are you growing? And what challenges do you face? When you're talking about yourself, these are pieces of the components that tell your story and the pieces that you need. Take a moment again to reflect on what we did and think about those and how they're going to connect into your story. Because those weaknesses tell a story as well, just as much as all of your accomplishments. What's the use case of your bio? Put them all on the list so that you can see them. It's a website about me, it's a LinkedIn summary, speaker panel intros, conference programs, grant applications, press features and media kits, email signatures are just a few. There's so many uses. They show up everywhere. Event programs, proposals, introductions. You can even use them and turn them into your verbal introduction if it's the short one. Like when I show up to someplace, my name is, this is what I do and who I represent, something I'm passionate about, right? I can now use that as part of the pitch, my elevator speak when I talk about myself in a very easy way. If I know these, then when I'm standing in a room, it speaks for me. More importantly, when I'm not in the room, it speaks even louder. And that's what you want a strong bio to do. So who's your target audience? This one's tricky, right? Do you write it in first person? Do you write it in third person? And there's a lot of different varying opinions on how your bio should be. I have mine in first person and third person in 3 formats each: short, mid, long. And I use them based on the audience. First person, I lead a team of, personal and approachable. So when I'm talking about myself in that sense, I definitely want to use my first person. Third person, it sets me as professional and external and an expert. So she leads a team of. You kind of notice this when Priya introduced me versus I introduced myself. She leads A, whereas I lead A. Those really matter. The rule is first person for networking or personal sites, third person for programs, press, and speaking events. Think about your own context. Where do you find a first person bio and where would you find a third person bio in your day-to-day work? What would be a use case? Question in the chat is, which should we use on our LinkedIn page? LinkedIn, in my opinion, is your personal page and your personal networking. If it is on your personal page, it should be personal. If you are representing your organization, it's on behalf of the organization and you're speaking in third person. Third person should be on your company website. Agreed. You're the voice of the company, so you are speaking and representing as a third person, not a first person. Agreed. Reading the AI chat notes. All right. So here's some basic do's and don'ts. When you're thinking about what should you say and when should you say it and how should you say it, one of the best ways to pull people together is through that bio. Your bio is often that first impression of your brand. It's not just your resume paragraph, it's your story. A strong bio, who you are, what you do, what makes you unique, and where are you heading? That SWOT analysis that I mentioned, where you talk about those weaknesses, where are you heading? You're overcoming every single one of those. That is your opportunity, and that's where you're going to include it. An example might be, I'm a marketing professional with experience in digital campaigns. Very basic. Doesn't tell me anything about the individual. I know what they do, right? Instead of saying it that way, try, I'm a marketing strategist who helps nonprofits grow awareness through data-driven storytelling. I'm passionate about using digital tools to connect people with causes they care about. Care where they're going, what they do. It's a little bit deeper. It's a little bit more personal. One is flat and one has that human characteristic and memorable. You need to be clear, specific, and human. You need to show your personality. Generic and buzzwords are often lost in terms of a bio. Acronyms do not work in bios. People don't know what they mean. Acronyms mean anything across different industries and different organizations, so stay away from those. Think of it this way. If someone else could copy and paste it, it's not uniquely you. Say it again. Somebody else could copy and paste it. It's not uniquely you. Your bio is you. It's as unique as your fingerprint should be. So our bios versus our resumes. Do you have any insights about the kind of photo to show in your profile? I will come back to that one. Yes, I do. Bios versus resumes. Please don't put your photo on your resumes. From an HR mindset, we hate it. It just is annoying. It also messes if you use a scanner for human resources applications. It oftentimes will error out your resume and you might not make it through the portal, just from personal use and things I heard at the SHRM conference this year. Pro tip. But your bio can have your photo. My bios do. I put my headshots at the top of them, and then I also send them as an attachment in case somebody needs to use them and pull them out. But your bio should have a photo. It should connect you visually to who you are. Bios are public facing, about what you do, who you are, why it matters. Resumes are your skills. They tell your background of all the jobs you've had and the things that you've accomplished through those jobs. They're two totally different things. If all you're doing in your bio is giving a laundry list of the things that you've done, you have not written a bio, you've written a resume, right? So think of it that way. When you're thinking about your resume, it's transactional. It's all a list of facts, whereas a bio is relational. It's your story. Both matter, but your bio is what people actually remember. They're going to take that away and know at least one thing from you when they leave the room. Also, resumes, it's brief. It's tailored to some of your work experiences. It's that summary. A CV, which is another term that a lot of people in academia use. So if you're not familiar with that one, it also gives all of that academic historical pieces. I actually have a CV and a resume. My CV includes all of the details, my coursework and everything, about my research work, whereas my resume is really slimmed down. There's a lot of rules of thumb of how long these things should be. So just thinking through that as well. We're going to get into the length of bios, what's acceptable and what's not. But the rule of thumb in resumes is 1 to 2 pages. You really don't want it long, whereas CVs can be significantly longer. Not spending a lot of time on that topic. All right. When we talked about what kind of image you should have on your profile. So I'm going to answer that question real quick. You want a clean headshot, not a busy background. If I were to open the curtains behind me, you'd get a bigger taste of who I am personally. Got artwork and books and all sorts of stuff on the shelves behind me. But it's distracting. And it takes away from what I'm trying to tell you and how I'm showing up. So I put a neutral background up so that it's very easy to just listen and see the screens and not be looking at, is that a cat in the background? I do have a cat who's trying to climb the curtains. I was telling the gals when we first started. So if the curtains move, it's a cat, but it's distracting. So when you're thinking of a headshot or image that you're using in your icon, anything that is taking away from what you're trying to convey should be removed from the background, right? So plain neutral backgrounds work the best. Headshots should be from shoulders up whenever you're thinking about it, unless you're going for a full body image because of what your attire is. You can use different headshots for different things. So I have a headshot. If everybody goes to my LinkedIn, you'll see it. My arms are crossed. I'm leaning against a pole. I'm rather relaxed, and I've got my company t-shirt on. That is my #1 headshot that I use when I send it out. I have a headshot that is simply chest up. That's on my website, right? So it is just that simple headshot. Everybody is uniform. We're all looking the same. It's on a white background. I have a headshot where I'm standing full length wearing a dress. I use each one for different purposes, right? If I'm talking to an audience where I need to be seen as the expert, then I'm going to use one headshot. If I'm talking to an audience where I want to seem welcome and maybe I'm getting an award or giving an award, I'll use one of my more relaxed headshots so it's not as like boxed in. But my number one tip on headshots is just simply the less that's in the background is the better. I don't care what you're doing with your body. I don't care what you're wearing. Less in the background is what really matters. I refer to a passport photo. I mean, that is a way of looking at it. That headshot only, chest up, look at the passport photo. It kind of is. But smile or don't smile. Be casual, be relaxed, be yourself. If your natural go-to is to not be all cheeky smiley with your teeth, don't do that. It doesn't come across as authentic. Show up in your headshot how you present yourself to the world, because that's what really matters, much like your bio. All right. So we're talking about your personal branding. We're talking about your bios, talking about all of these things. We're going to talk about some tips as well. I'm going to lead with impact. That first sentence, those first words we wrote down in the very beginning of this session. We said, these are the words that matter, and that's how I show up. That should be your hook. What do you want people to see immediately? Because that's going to set the tone if they're going to keep reading or if they're going to go on to the next person. Tailor your tone and detail based on the audience in which you're going to use it. If you are like me, you will end up with dozens of bios. I do have dozens, and I pick and choose where I'm going to use them and how I'm going to use them. You should revisit them often. If you don't look at your resume but once every 10 years, you've missed out on 10 years worth of growth. A bio is the same way. You are changing, learning, developing every single day. Your bio should reflect that. Using keywords for visibility, SEO and LinkedIn, right? Those matter because as more and more AI is pulling from websites, so there's not so much the straight Google search is giving you those AI results in the top. What would you want to show in your AI response if it came back to you really quickly? If anybody's done a recent Google search, it will pop up the AI suggestions first. What would you want to appear there? That's all based on SEO, by the way, and other logic behind the algorithms. And then keep different versions. So I mentioned a short, a medium, and a long. And I'm going to hone in on again, update them regularly. If you write it and forget about it after this session, I will be deeply disappointed. And even more so, I hope that you would be disappointed that you're not going to use this as a powerful tool. All right, so, that's a little blurry. I'm going to give you some samples. I'm going to read them because this one's blurry. Justin Champion is the author of Inbound Content, content professor for HubSpot Academy, and half of Wild We Wander. Justin created HubSpot Academy's content marketing course, which has awarded over 25,000 certifications to professionals across the globe since November 2016. He brings his decade of experience to his current role, where he's dedicated to educating and inspiring the world how to become better storytellers. And you can find him the following places. So this bio has some good things to it. But do you know who Justin is as a person? You drop it in the Slack if you feel like you know him or you don't know him. I know what he does. Do you know him? You know anything personal about him? So this is a very technical bio. It is what I classify as often seen in the world of the tech industry. They tell you everything that they've done and accomplished and nothing personal about them. Not a bad bio, that's why I picked it. Tabitha, on the other hand, Tabitha satisfies the hunger of millions with her unique approach to veganism and wholesome, comedic personality. From teaching people new recipes, giving a word of wisdom, or enjoying a good laugh, she has become America's mom to her 13 million plus followers. I'm not going to read the rest of it. But in the very last sentence, above all, Tabitha teaches us about having faith, perseverance, paving our unique path to achieve dreams, and being our authentic selves. We know what Tabitha does. We know what she's passionate about. We know why she does it, and we know where she's going next. That makes a strong bio. This is a little bit long for, that long bio, so it's not the short. So to shorten this one, we'd want to hone it in even more to talk about those things that she accomplishes. That first paragraph makes you want to continue to read. I want to know what else she's writing. This is another one. Anne Henley, a Wall Street Journal best-selling author who speaks worldwide about how businesses can escape marketing mediocrity. Go on and go. She took everything that is in her long version and condensed it to 2 or 3 sentences. And I wanted to represent this so that you could see. You can write your long version first and then narrow it down. And the narrow version should be about 75 words. We're going to talk about the format a little bit, but about 75 words for your really short. Then you're going to build on it from there. I wrote mine, and this was just my approach. I wrote it like a story. I wrote the full long version. If somebody only had a chance to read me on paper, what did I want them to take away from it? So that's what I wrote. Here's another sample. I like this one because it has some top skills to it. You don't see this very often, but I thought it was a quite interesting take. So I know what she does in the very first words. She is a fractional chief customer service officer. I know that her mastery is in social listening because that's on there. I know she's gotten some features because that's also listed in here. I don't know nearly as much about her personally because it's all very professional focused on what she does. Again, nothing wrong with it, but it does say that she's social listening, she's customer insight, community building, marketing. Those are the top skills that she has. Great. So why would I want to listen to her? When you think about a bio, if you were going to put yourself where you're going to talk, why would somebody want to listen to you? If I'm going for a specific skill, I might go to her, right? She's bringing me that specific skill. But if I want to hear inspiration, this doesn't spark me to go, what's she going to tell me? What's her story, right? What's she navigating? So I used some ChatGPT because I wanted to show you that this could be done. I took my resume and I threw it into ChatGPT and I said, write a personal bio for me. This is what it came up with. I have not edited this. This is exactly what it came back with. I'm a logistics leader passionate about turning supply chain challenges into social good. That is true. My resume speaks about supply chain because I won an award in supply chain, right? I have 15 years of nonprofit experience. It calculated that for me. I didn't write that number. I work with industry leaders to reduce food waste. And when I'm not in strategy meetings, I'm mentoring women in leadership or hiking with my daughters in Montana. You got the Montana because that's on my thing. I did put in some personal facts that, where I live and I have kids and what my hobbies are. My husband's a Marine, right? So I put those details in there so that it could give me something personal. My prompt in ChatGPT was, here is my resume and 3 personal facts about me. Write a short bio that reflects who I am for a speaking panel. This is what it came back with. If you're going to use ChatGPT, nothing wrong with it. But make sure you also feed it the personal details about yourself. Otherwise, it's going to come back with just your technical stuff from your resume. So you have to tell it more and give it a really solid prompt. What are you going to be using the bio for? If you are not a writer and you just simply don't know where to start, this is a safe way to start. But I would edit the heck out of this, and we're going to see that when you see my bio in a moment. Another sample, who I just threw in another person and gave it some facts, is the second one. I'm a junior web developer for Oswald Technologies, which I don't even know if it exists, but it just came up with a company. I'm a coder. I have skills. I graduated from a certain college. I have an award, and I have leadership skills. So really, again, the short bio helps people see you, not just your title. It gives them, just that basic information that helps them understand who you are in a frame of reference. It talks about how you resonate and how you show up. So, the next page. For your personal bio, you're real, you're honest, but don't over-polish it. If you sit there and Grammarly the heck out of this thing and you focus on it being perfect, it does tend to come across as AI written. I'm going to be very transparent. We've all kind of seen it where it's just bullet pointed list. The first one, you can definitely tell there's not very much human behind that. It's definitely AI written. You want to have your bio read as your story. So think about it when you're writing it. All right. Head down time. Write 3 facts about your experience, background, and skills. Keep your list short, just 3. Use action verbs. And then write 1 personal fact about yourself that you would feel comfortable sharing. And I'm going to ask for a very brave volunteer to drop their stuff in the in the chat channel. Be brave, people. You don't have to read it out loud. I'll read it for you. Planning events, meetings, and due expenses. All right. So those are 3 facts about you. Let's turn that into something. Mari is an expert event planner, meeting organizer, and tracker of expenses. She uses her expertise to execute well thought out and mindful events that bring impact and success to her entire team. It's a story. I don't know anything else about her or them, they, other than what is listed here. So how am I going to weave those in? You can take 3 words and start by telling your story. Planning events, immediately I go to thinking about event execution. Without the backbone of somebody doing all the logistics of an event, it won't be successful. So the story weaves itself from there. 3 facts from, here's a second one. I'm a cancer survivor. I like long walks in nature, and I write short stories and articles. Okay, so we've got 2 personal facts and 1 that's more professional fact. So I am going to butcher your name, and I am absolutely apologetic for it. Rakad? I am so sorry. Horrible at names. Is a passionate storyteller, bringing illustration and life to the stories that thread people's lives, using their experience and their survival through cancer and their love and affinity towards nature. They bring a personal touch to every story they tell. Right? You can still weave the story in. A lot of it sounds like fluffy words, but you're filling in the gaps with what you can glean in a situation. We'll not have time to do every single one of these. I'm going to pick 1 more. Bernadette, builder of teams, advocate of patients, creator of innovative clinical diagnostics. Outside of work, I enjoy new recipes and travel. Builder of teams, advocate of patients, creator of innovative clinical diagnostics. All right. Challenge accepted. As a thought leader and expert in patient advocacy, Bernadette has built teams that are creative to advance clinical diagnostics and patient advocacy through her work. While not at work, Bernadette enjoys time creating new recipes and traveling to explore her adventurous soul, or their adventurous soul. Right? I'm really kind of dovetailing in those personal pieces and that professional piece. You want to highlight that they are building teams and what that specialty is, in this case, clinical diagnostics. If you want me to play with your words, you can message me afterwards. So here is what my actual short version looks like. Kristy Ryan is a mission-driven nonprofit executive and chief operating officer at Move for Hunger, where she leads innovative initiatives to combat food insecurity and reduce food waste across North America. With over 15 years of experience, she is known for transforming strategy into impact and cultivating inclusive, high-performing teams. A proud spouse of a retired U.S. Marine, mom of 2 daughters, and a lifelong advocate for equity. Kristy was honored with Chiefs 2025 New Era of Leadership Award and the 2024 Women in Supply Chain Trailblazers Award. 2 big accomplishments that I really want to make sure everybody knows because it sets me as an expert. My family, right? Because I personally show up for my family every single day and they come with me everywhere I go. So they're always in my bios. And then a little bit more about what I do and who I am, right? So where's my expertise and why does it matter when I show up in a room? Why do you want to hear from me? Hopefully this tells a bit of that story. Mid-length, I'm not going to read it, but it expands on all of that. Gives a little bit more about my academics, about my expertise, about any certifications that I hold, and things that I'm actually passionate about. I expand this one and I added in my last sentence. I like people to walk away with that last sentence being really powerful. I'm passionate about leading sustainable initiatives and building meaningful connections to foster belonging. That is something I care deeply about. That's why I'm even here sharing about bios. And then I have a really long one, just so you can see it. I do have a really long one. And my long one always includes where you can find me speaking, because I take a lot of stages and I want to have people show up to the audiences I'm in. It is my time I'm committing when I speak. So I definitely want people to know where they can find me. So when you're thinking through your personal bios, think of it as that journey. I write my really long one. This is the first one I wrote. Probably could use to be touched up again. But I write my really long one and then I start narrowing it down from there. All right. For a bit of our time, I want you to draft one of these three. If you've already got a bio and you just want to refresh it, that's a fine answer too. Create one sentence, 700 or 75 words, 150 words. Draft a version of your bio, first person, third person. I don't care. You have no rules. But I want you to write something about yourself that you want everybody on this call, all 106 people, to walk away with, to get to know you. And when you're ready, drop it in the Slack or the chat if you're ready. Who needs guardrails? I'll give you some more tips. All right. Who are you and what do you do? That could be sentence one. What unique value or perspective do you bring? What excites you about what's next? Shelley, quick to the take. As a certified nonprofit professional with nearly 10 years at Mid-America Regional Council, I specialize in fostering relationships across local, state, and federal organizations to enable impactful training and events. Shelley, that's a really great bio. Sparrow is passionate about making a meaningful difference through her work in human services and altruism. Let's see, her journey has taken her across communities. Oh, scrolly, sorry. And borders, collaborating with government agencies, nonprofits, and local organizations. It keeps going. This is really good. What I would say is when you take this and tighten it down, one of the things that you're going to want to focus on is pick one thing you're passionate about. Sometimes when we put too many things, we lose people, right? You're cooking and you're outside and you're painting and pottery and singing and dancing. Pick one thing that exudes you and really focus on that, because that's the thing that you want people to relate to. Jasmina, an author, advocate, and visionary leader through a mother's, oh goodness, sorry, this chat's going like this, and the Redeeming Marketplace Ministries. I create spaces of redemption, justice, and hope for mothers, families, and community impacted by incarceration. That is a fabulous bio. I know what you do. I know what you care about. I need to know a little bit more about who you are, though. And I'm a bilingual nonprofit leader, CNP, planning meetings, events, and parish outreach. I love spending time with my family and enjoying volunteering. Number one rule is please don't use an acronym. Nobody knows what a CNP is outside of us, right? They might think that you're a certified nurse practitioner. Somebody asked me that once. It's like, no, I'm not. So make sure you spell those out. But that's a really great start to your story. I'm a community storytelling facilitator and nonprofit communications professional, amplifying the human stories and lived experiences of passionate community builders and direct service organizations. As a SIB of a person with a disability, it's my life mission to elevate and honor everyone's story. Okay, that one gave me goosebumps. I know what you do. I know how you show up, and I know you personally a little bit. I know a little bit. It makes me want to ask you a question. That's what you want. You want people to want to ask you a question, to pick your brain. All right. The fun fact is we are at the end of the presentation and now we can answer questions. QR code will take you to my LinkedIn. Feel free to go ahead and connect with me if you're so inclined. If you ever want somebody to just be a spot on the wall, what I will say is keep the conversation going. If you're a CNP over in CNP Central, we were just talking about this before we joined. Ask somebody to be your thought partner on writing your bio, of reading your bio, kind of like I just did, asking you deeper questions.
Thank you, Kristy, for that insightful presentation. Okay, now we will open up the floor for questions. Please feel free to submit your questions in the chat and or QA box. We will try to get through as many as possible. If we don't get to your question, feel free to connect with Kristy afterwards. Okay, I do see a couple of questions in QA. Let's dive into the first question. Difference between LI, I think they are referring to LinkedIn versus Facebook. Should LI be more professional branding?
Yes. So LinkedIn is a professional network versus Facebook, which is a personal networking opportunity. Think about it this way. How many of your high school friends find you on LinkedIn? I actually just had the very first one find me last week because we're connected to somebody. And he was like, oh, I didn't realize that we're connected to this person. None of my high school friends find me on LinkedIn. They find me on Facebook or Instagram or one of the other social platforms. So when you're thinking of that context, do your friends from high school really care? A few of them actually. Cute, Shelly. It's not exclusive. Yes, they will still find you, but generally speaking, LinkedIn should be a professional bio. Facebook is where you get to be more expressive. You're often sharing stories of your personal life. Depending on if you're what generation you are, you might be sharing, family stories. You might be sharing pictures of walks that you take. It is a personal place. You do not share pictures of your dog typically on LinkedIn. Therefore, it's that professional networking spot.
That makes totally sense. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I see another question before that one is, how do you build a bio or personal story when you're in career or personal journey or in transition, or if you're struggling or juggling roles? Mm-hmm. So this one gets a little bit to me because I actually changed from corporate America to nonprofit 15 years ago. And I didn't know my identity when I made that change. I knew who I was in corporate America, and I knew who I wanted to be as a nonprofit professional. So I had to sit with asking myself those questions. I did the SWOT analysis on myself. What makes me attractive to a nonprofit when I first was entering the world of nonprofits, right? What do I want to show up as? Why does this mission matter to me? And I was able to write a bio that tied the mission back. And that's what I think of. So for me, where do I want to be is how I present my bio, right? So I'm going to use all my skills and my experience and my background, and then I'm really going to point my bio in those instances of where I want to grow and develop. It might be something that I'm really passionate about. If I really want to get into public speaking, then I'm going to lean my bio into somebody that presents myself as unashamed to take a stage, unembarrassed, right? Nerves don't take me on. I'm really thinking of where I want to go because that's what the bio is going to do. It's going to help me open that door to get there. I hope that helps answer that question.
Yes, I think so. Yes, great insight. Thank you. Let me see. I have one more question. Referring to Mark's Tracer's comment, things to avoid on resume to avoid bias like gender, age, ethnicity, etc. Especially with AI-based resume filters. Does this bias exist?
It does, unfortunately, as much as we would like bias not to exist. There's emerging trends where people are removing the years that they filled roles. I will say I put my last 2 or 3 roles with their years on them, the most relevant experience, and then I take the years off of everything else. I do not on my resume put the year I earned my diplomas and my degrees. Just it does tend to age you. And while it's certainly not been something that I have faced, I have witnessed it happen enough. And whether we like to believe it or not, people do tend to look at that information. They're not supposed to. But if we know that that may happen, why would you give somebody that power? That's just my personal opinion. That is not an endorsement of anything. That's just my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Kristy. I don't see any other questions in the chat or Q&A. So please feel free to post your any questions or comments. And if not, I think we can wrap up. You feel free to reach out to Kristy afterwards if you get any questions. So let's
I'm just going to point out Troy's little, kind of like the old adage, dress for the job you want, not the job that you're in adage. It is true. When you're presenting yourself in your bio, again, it's the power of the story that you want to tell. I'm not saying lie, please don't do that, because you might have to prove who you are. But if you are making a transition and you want to be somebody who's stepping into a space or seen a certain way, you need to be able to tell that story and why, right? When I first started public speaking, it was, I'm going to go and apply to speak, and we're going to see if it works. And I think it sounds good in my head. And then they said, yes, you're accepted to speak. And I was like, great. And they're like, send me a bio. And I was like, well, what should my bio say? What story do I want people who are looking at the hundreds of sessions at a conference to make them show up and want to come to my stage? When you're talking some of the big stages, I was at SHRM earlier this year and I spoke, and they put me in a room that seated 6,000 people. And I was like, why would 6,000 people want to come to my session? I had that imposter syndrome for a split second. And then I reminded myself, when I show up and I'm authentic and I'm giving a message that matters and people care about, that's why people want to show up. And that helped me remind myself and center myself. Your bio does that for you. When you have self-doubt, read your bio. Don't read your resume. Read your bio. Strong bio will center you and help you kind of navigate that space.
Thank you. And you already answered this question, but if you want to give more, if you want to add anything, give us an example about telling the story and why.
Telling the story and why. Oh, all right. So I'm going to go back to SHRM. So I spoke at SHRM about corporate social responsibility and employee engagement. Really heavy, really topics most people are like, oh, great. Somebody's going to come tell us what to do to make our employees happy, right? The story that I presented when I told them that I was going to speak tied to the fact that there's data that says that engaged employees are more likely to stay. My hook was it costs $33,000 to train and onboard a new employee every single time you do it. If your retention rate is at 30%, look how much money you're allowing to walk out the door. That was my opening hook. Now, my story of why it really mattered was the second half of the data. Employees who are engaged are more likely to be invested in their brand. What we know in the nonprofit space is employees tend in the nonprofit space to go above and beyond. We're wearing 15 hats, right? So we can easily say our employees and our team members are doing so very much, and we can tell that story. Employees who show up for their brand and represent their brand are more likely to invite their friends, their family, and their network to connect to that brand. I give a story oftentimes in food insecurity. It's not a space that, unless you've lived it, you may not understand it fully. I was a child and I was food insecure, and it's my Pop-Tart story. I remember distinctly going to before care at school and seeing the kids with those shiny Pop-Tart emblem packages. And I had the off brand of Pop-Tarts, right? The silver package was not quite silver, and they definitely didn't have the sugar crystals on them. And for years, I connected the actual Pop-Tart brand to value. And so when I came out of food insecurity, and the first time I ever got that Pop-Tart, the real Pop-Tart, it was this moment that stayed with me. And I think nobody should ever have to wonder, do I get a brand that's going to show up or not? When I talk to people, I tell that story as part authentically who I am. It's not in my bio, but it is part of my story. So when you're thinking of how you're telling your story, it's about how you're showing up as well, and what you're willing to be vulnerable about and what you're not willing to be vulnerable about. Your bio, you do not have to be super vulnerable in your bios. So just remember that there is this balance that you have to live.
That's such a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. I don't think we have any questions. Any more questions? Thank you, Kristy, for the wonderful presentation and patiently answering all the questions. And thank you all for your thoughtful questions and participation today. As a reminder, the Association of CNPs host events like this throughout the year. For more info, check out our upcoming events page. You can also check our chat. You can donate and help us to continue these free sessions by clicking the link in the chat. So with that, let me give a quick look at the chat. If you have any questions, I think we don't have anything. Okay, let's wrap up. Thank you. Have a great day.
Everybody.
Bye.